Welcome back here to College Basketball Review Studio. It is Conference Tournament Championship Week. Couple episodes for you today. Later on, you'll be able to watch our mid-major previews of the conference tournaments, part 3. But, gentlemen, right now it is Power Conference Tournament time. Matt Baginski with you, Dan Siegel, Ario Puderman. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, as always, to be able to hear, watch, and just, get along with the ride for us for all this college basketball content as we are in March Madness. But first, we got to get to the Power Conference tournaments, guys. It's fun to preview the mid-majors, but these are the games that everyone loves to watch from start to finish, not just, hey, it's a close game at the end, let me tune in to Towson and Hofstra as we are right now as we're recording. But these are the games that are going to matter for some teams looking to make it as at-large bids as well. So let us get right into it with the Big Ten tournament. The massive Big Ten tournament that, for whatever reason, we have Maryland, Oregon, Penn State, and Northwestern playing games on Tuesday. Not sure if we really need that because the winner will not come there, and the winner will not come from anyone in the next round either. I think the first round it will come from that we all agree on is maybe Purdue or Wisconsin. But, guys, before we pick winners, we want to talk storylines because, obviously, for Power Conference, a lot more to talk about. So we'll go Ariel, Dan, myself, and then we'll get into the picks. But first off, what is a major storyline, Ariel, that you have in the Big Ten tournament?
Yeah, the first team I circle is Indiana. I don't think any team has a more important Big Ten tournament than them just because of how the way they've ended the season and how they've done against Q1 opponents. So if you just look down the line, they'll play Northwestern, a team they lost to a couple weeks ago. And then if they win that one, then they'll play, is that Purdue that they're going to play in the next round? So,
yes.
Obviously a huge rivalry game, a game they have already beaten Purdue this season, and that's a great opportunity for them. But just going down the line, how many of these games can they win and how many do they need to win is another big question for them. The other ones I'm looking at are teams like Iowa, a team that I think they're safely in right now, but they're playing for seeding. That's going to be important for them. A team like Ohio State, they're hot right now. How hot can they get? Are we going to get to see an Ohio State-Michigan game? That'll be awesome. And then just like the main storyline for me is, can anyone beat Michigan? I mean, they've been so dominant. They won the conference by 4 games. Michigan State's their biggest rival, and they kind of took care of them pretty easily this season. Can Illinois get competitive with them? It looks like they'll probably play in the semifinals. So I think there's a lot of storylines, but the one I'm really looking at is Indiana, and then just who can beat Michigan, if any.
Yeah, Michigan, very important as far as like the not that really matters, but it does matter a little bit, like the number 1 overall seed and their race between Michigan and Duke. Duke, of course, number 1 right now, but if Michigan wins the Big Ten and then Duke loses in the ACC, which we'll talk about the ACC and the Duke injuries, but that they could definitely flip back and forth as they have been doing all season. Also, another team, Wisconsin, like they've just been such a fun team, electric offensively, and they've lost a bunch of games, right? Their record is 22-9. Wisconsin has some of the best collections of wins in the country. Like they're one of the only teams that's beaten Michigan. They beat Illinois. Purdue they've beaten.
Mm-hmm.
Like the UCLA. Like you go down the list. This Wisconsin team is like some of the best wins. So I really like them. And Nebraska, like we haven't talked about them, but also they're getting the old triple bye. Like if they can make some noise, it's very important because some of these teams are trending down, and could some of these like teams that started really well, Purdue especially in that category, they're trending down, win a couple games, if not make it the whole way in the Big Ten tournament, like that could really change the entire perception going into March Madness.
I have one storyline in particular that I'm looking at in the Big Ten, and that is how far can Purdue go? And that's because Braden Smith, obviously most people have been tracking it, is now 48 assists away from breaking the all-time record held by Bobby Hurley. He's 10 away from second place. He can get that in the game against Indiana Rutgers, whoever he plays. He can get it, or he'll get it in the next game as long as they don't lose that one. But the big thing for me here is if he is going to break this record, I think that Purdue at the bare minimum needs to play 2 games. I think that they really need to play 3 games, guys. Because obviously we know what Purdue is in March. They can go on a run, but they are also very susceptible with Matt Painter as the head coach. And this Purdue team in particular has looked very susceptible. So I just think it'd be such a cool thing to happen if it happens in the Big Ten tournament, which in all likelihood it won't, because he'd need to literally have like at least a game where he has like 15 or 16 assists and then like 10 and all the rest, I think they would actually stop the game to honor it in the Big Ten tournament. I think they would do that. They will not do that in March Madness. That will not happen in the NCAA tournament whatsoever. So it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to be a little bit closer, maybe like 35 away, and able to potentially break it in the Big Ten tournament. But yeah, that's my storyline. How far can Purdue get to get Braden Smith closer to that record? They're planning to win the whole thing. Don't get it twisted. But everyone is still hoping that he breaks Bobby Hurley's record. So that would be a cool thing. Who do we have winning the Big Ten tournament, guys?
Michigan. I just don't think anyone has a chance against them.
That's it. Yeah, I agree. I'm going Michigan as well. One point to add on. I don't even think the funny thing is that Braden Smith isn't leading the Big Ten assists this year. I believe that's Jeremy Fears. But yeah, as far as this conversation, Michigan, I don't have much more to say.
Yeah, I'll go with Michigan as well. I don't need to be like too. There's no reason to be cute with this pick. There really isn't. And like maybe in like other conferences, but like yeah, like Michigan's winning the Big Ten tournament. And if they don't, like it's not like this like shock, guys. But like there's no sense picking anyone else other than Michigan.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the ACC tournament. Again, a little bit of a tough bracket to read, but 3 games that start here as we speak on Tuesday. And guys, who's going to go all the way and win this thing?
It's Duke. Look, I'm going to be honest. The top seeds proved a couple weeks ago when we had that weekend where all the top seeds played consensus second best team in the conference and they all just dominated them. I think it's going to be the same here. So that's why I don't really want to talk about the winner. I want to talk about some of those other games that are going to be important. Some of those games like the NC State game, I mean, they're ice cold right now. They've kind of gone from safely in to back on the bubble. Are they going to go one and done? And if they do and they lose to Pitt or Stanford, is that enough to keep them in? Or do we see a situation like West Virginia last year where they lose to a pretty bad team and as a result, they get left out? Same thing with a team like Cal. We saw them lose to Pitt a couple weeks ago and they went from in to back out.
Oh
my God, he scared me.
Buzzer beater?
Buzzer beater for Hofstra. Moving on to the CAA championship.
Oh my God.
Wow. Shout out.
Did you guys see it?
No.
I saw my phone like a minute ago.
Oh, I did not see it. I've been locked into this ACC bracket. But anyway, Ariel,
I was waiting to do
we're keeping that in. We're keeping that in. Keep going, though.
Yeah, geez. I hope you don't see my jump scare because that was amazing. But either way, and then Matt, I know you're probably going to talk about them, but a team like SMU, can they go on a run? A team that kind of looked good to start the conference play, but have really dropped the ball and slid all the way into that first round of games. So I think a lot of cool storylines. A team like Clemson as well. We don't really know what to expect from them. They looked really good to start conference play, then they dropped 4 straight. Now they're kind of looking good again. So UNC obviously without Caleb Wilson. So I kind of covered every team there, unironically, but it's still Duke's to win, and we'll see who finishes second.
Yeah, I think the big storyline with the ACC, first off, also is the injuries in general. And obviously it starts with Duke in their last game of the season, losing Gumba and then losing Caleb Foster. And I would go – I don't know if they've both been officially ruled out for the ACC tournament, but I would venture off and say they both don't play, and I have no idea about
I think
March
Shire
Madness.
said they're not even going to
Neither
playing them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have no idea if that's like, oh, they're out for the season or, we're just being cautious. Like, we have no idea. But that's a significant storyline that they're 2 starters short. Obviously, talked about North Carolina with Caleb Wilson. Same thing with a team like Louisville, right? Mikael Brown's been off and on the court all year, and he's now hurt again. So will he play? It matters a lot. A team like Virginia and a team like Miami, 2 teams that are, for the most part, fully healthy. And those are like I cannot wait for the potential semifinal game between them. You have Virginia, who has pretty much been beating everybody except for Duke, who's a step above everyone else. And man, like Miami is super, super good team that's been playing some great ball right now. Another team that's not going to be an at-large tournament team, but I want to look at is Florida State. And Luke Locke's actually got votes for Coach of the Year. Like they started off awfully, lost a lot of bad non-conference games, but Florida State has just been tearing the league through shreds, especially the middle of the league. And I would definitely take them to beat Cal, give Duke a little bit of a run for their money, a short-handed Duke that's not going to be necessarily taking them too seriously. So that's what I'm looking at. But, yeah, I think at the end of the day, I'm going to go Duke, but the Virginia-Miami winner could really give them a run for their money again because they're healthy and Duke is not. That's what I'm looking at.
I'm looking at Tuesday because there's 3 games Tuesday, and usually Tuesday's games don't matter at all, guys. But this time it really does because at 2 o'clock you have Pittsburgh playing Stanford, a Stanford team on the bubble with a loss. They are totally out. So Stanford is playing like, hey, we need to make sure we win this game. Same exact situation as SMU plays Syracuse. SMU is in the field right now, but I think a loss against Syracuse, which would be the second time this season, would maybe put SMU in question. And then Wake Forest and Virginia Tech, 1 win away from 20 wins, looking to maybe make a run here and get themselves in. I mean, I'm going to be honest, guys. Every single game in the ACC tournament is going to matter for seeding or for bubble. There is not one game because once you get to Wednesday, you got NC State, who also needs to win, Louisville and Clemson, then you're talking about teams needing seeding, and then Cal and Florida State, which is a Cal team that is not out of this thing yet either. So it is just very fun that there's a conference tournament where every single team, not every team has a chance, but every single game will have an implication for the NCAA tournament. I want to talk about my preview as well because I wrote the article for my tournament preview, so I picked every game in this. I went kind of nuts with it. I have Stanford into the quarterfinals, I have SMU into the quarterfinals, and I have Cal into the quarterfinals. With that being said, I have Duke and Virginia in the championship game and Duke winning this one. I'm going to be crazy with my picks. Conference tournament time. It's a very deep conference in the ACC this year. Very intriguing games and different matchups within the games. But I'm just going to say I have Duke and Virginia meeting in the championship game. Let's go into our picks, guys. Who do you guys have winning this one?
Duke.
Yeah, I already said it, Duke. But, yeah, I Virginia's going to play a much more competitive game than they did the first time around.
I agree with that as well, but yeah, I have Duke as well. Like it's kind of the same thing as the Michigan one, Ariel, right? There's no sense being sneaky.
There's going to be a theme with a lot of these picks.
Yeah. And also with SMU, one more quick thing to add is obviously with the injury status there, like I don't feel comfortable taking them to the quarterfinals, but with BJ Edwards not playing for the last couple of games, but I just think that like Boopy Miller's the type of player that can put his team on his back, and I feel the same about Abuko, Corey, and Stanford, and the matchups that they got. So we'll see if that happens, but I feel like I went kind of chalky in a lot of my picks this year on our website. For those listening, you can go to our website. We have previews for all the tournaments. I went chalky with the mid-majors, and then all of a sudden it gets to the ACC, and I'm like, maybe it's just because you know it better, so you feel more confident making the upset pick. Yeah, it just turned out that way. 3 more to get to, so we'll move right along to the Big 12, guys. Ariel, your storyline for your conference.
My storyline is I'm having FOMO because I've been at the Big 12 tournament the last 3 years covering, and now I'm in Chicago. So could have done the Big 10 tournament, but Big 12 is where my heart is. I think there's a couple. I think the big one is BYU, that 10 seed. Really surprising to see them fall that low. But since that Richie Saunders injury that kept him out for the year, they just haven't looked great besides those 2 big wins at home. So 1, how many games can they win? And 2, how much will it matter? I think if they lose to K-State, that's a problem. But West Virginia, a team they lost to a few games ago, can they get past them? I think a lot of people are going to expect them to, but the way they've been playing, that's not a guarantee. I think also teams on the bubble, we saw UCF, they've lost 3 straight, and they've kind of put their way back onto the bubble, and they'll potentially play Cincinnati in that game, a team that's on the other side, a team that's been really hot recently, and they're trying to make up from a horrible start to the season and try to sneak their way in. I think a couple of other ones are just Texas Tech. Can they win without JT Toppin? And how many games can they win without JT Toppin? Because they'll have to play Iowa State if they can beat Baylor or Arizona State. And then just a couple teams that maybe have struggled as of late but have a really high ceiling, Houston and Kansas. Houston's really kind of taking their foot off the gas a little bit. They really struggle with shot creation outside of Kingston Fleming. So can they kind of turn that around in this tournament? And then Kansas, we saw them lose to Arizona State. We saw them lose to Cincinnati, but then they looked really dominant against Kansas State. So which side of them will we see with only a 45-minute drive to Kansas City from Lawrence? So expect a great crowd from them. Obviously Hilton South as well with Iowa State. And then obviously just can anyone beat Arizona? I mean, the answer all season's been no, but Kansas City's pretty far from Arizona, so maybe the lack of the home crowd can catch up to them. But if we'll talk picks at the end, but it still seems like with like the ACC and the Big Ten, it's a one-team conference.
Yeah, I'll let you know if I agree or not on that in a sec. But I think that the two that I want to hit on a little bit more, the first one is Texas Tech. Again, they figured out a little bit of how to win without JT Toppin. Of course, Christian Anderson has been absolutely phenomenal as well, and Donovan Atwell. And like they have pretty much just those three guys, and then Toppin's out. So it's really just, it's a two-man show there. And again, I feel like a lot of our NCAA tournament perception could be skewed by like a team that makes a run because this is a tournament setting, right? This is a simulation of like consecutive games and then only a couple days. So that really stands out to me. And then Kansas, especially in that like Darren Peterson in a tournament setting, playing consecutive games on consecutive days, presumably. Excited for that.
I'm excited for Arizona State. Bobby Hurley. When will his last official game be? Will Bobby Hurley force Arizona State to keep him for another year because he brings them to the Big 12 championship, wins it, and goes to the Final Four and pulls Kevin Keith? Yeah. Like maybe that's what Bobby Hurley has up his sleeve. You never know if he's done yet. No, that's going to be interesting. I know I talked about the ACC like it was special, but the Big 12 kind of has the same thing here, where like every game does have some like implications. Although like Baylor would need a long run, and I believe Oklahoma State would as well. Like they're like further down the bubble than some of the ACC teams, where like Oklahoma State would need to beat like Colorado, TCU, and probably Kansas as well, which just won't happen. Because the Colorado win just won't give them much. And obviously, like, I don't think the TCU one would either. And if you're Baylor, you'd kind of have to beat Arizona State, and Iowa State might give them a chance. And if they were to beat Texas Tech, like, that could almost lock Baylor in, because, like, that'd be two real good wins. So that'll be interesting to see if any of those teams can make runs. But, guys, biggest storyline for me here is, like, it's just kind of crazy how at the start of this Big 12 season, if you told me that Iowa State was going to get the 5 seed and TCU was going to get the 6 seed, I would have told you that you were crazy. I would have said there's no way Iowa State is going to get like the 2 or the 3 and TCU is going to get like the 11 or the 12. Because after that loss to New Orleans, Jamie Dixon has just done an outstanding job with this Horned Frogs team, pretty much getting them in the tournament. I think they're a lock at this point. Like, I know they're kind of like bubble, but the bubble's so bad that like I think they could lose out in the first round here and still be in the NCAA tournament. So just props to them. Yeah, let's get into the picks, guys.
It's Arizona for me. I mean, they've lost 2 games all season, and that was just a back-to-back, and one where Kansas, probably one of the hardest environments any team had to play in the whole country, and then Texas Tech at home, but that was when Koa Pete was out for the second half of the game. So it's hard to pick against Arizona here. I think they get it done.
I am going to pick against Arizona. I'm going to go with the winner of the Kansas-Houston semifinal game, which I'm predicting is going to happen. I'm going to go with Houston. I think Houston wins this Big 12 tournament. They've shown that they could compete with Arizona. They played a couple weeks ago, and it was a competitive game. Arizona did end up winning, but they also like missed some open shots. Like I think Houston, as much as they're not the elite defensive team that we're used to, this is like a new kind of wave of Houston basketball where they do have like star freshman shot creators and a guy like Kingston Flemings. I really love what I've seen out of Houston. They pretty much, if they're shooting, they pretty much bring everything else to the table. And sometimes you just need to get hot a little bit. I think that happens. And give me the Cougars.
Yeah, the only thing about Arizona's draw is, like, if they play Iowa State in the semifinals, that could be a really intriguing game. Like, to me, that's the championship game right there. If Iowa State were able to beat Arizona, I just feel like, okay, like, at that point, they're going to win the Big 12 championship. But if not, like, Arizona's going to win it. And I'll go with Arizona as well. Like, not for the same reason as Michigan and Duke, because I think there's a better chance they don't win here. But, like, they're just clearly one of the best teams, if not the best in college basketball when they're playing at their best. I had a coworker, I'm not going to like name names or anything, who like follows college basketball a little bit, where like they kind of know what the top teams are, and they were like, oh yeah, like if Arizona were to like lose their last game of the regular season and they get bounced in the first round of the Big 12 tournament or first game or whatever, then like they could be a 2 seed. And I was like, no, like they have been locked into a 1 seed for weeks now. There's this weird thing going on right now where it feels like everyone's on Michigan. And a lot of people are like, oh, Duke is like legit. And like somehow like Arizona is like falling under the radar in a way, even though they have 15 quad 1 wins. I don't know if it's just because like it's Duke and it's Michigan, like they're big brands and stuff. And I'm out here on the East Coast. But yeah, I mean, Arizona guys, they can clearly win the whole thing. They're the 1 seed for a reason in this tournament. So give me the Wildcats. We got 2 more to get to. So let's go to the SEC next. Starts on Wednesday. Interesting bracket here, guys. So I mean, just give me the rundown as well. Like your storylines heading into Wednesday.
Interestingly, a lot of the storylines are on Wednesday. You have to start with Kentucky, 9 seed. I think that's the lowest they've been in quite some time. Even that Cal team that I think went under 500 overall in 2021, they were higher than that, than a 9 seed. So started a lot of anguish on the Kentucky side about Pope. And if they don't make it to the quarterfinals, what does that conversation look like? Then you, of course, have Auburn. I mean, probably the hottest, besides Miami, Ohio, probably the most talked about team on the bubble. 15 losses right now, but number 1 strength of schedule. They do have some good wins. So the question becomes, how many games do they have to win before they're comfortably in? And can we let a 16-loss team make the tournament? So you can see that they're out. They have, if they get past Mississippi State, they have a lot of great opportunities to pick up big wins, but that's a tough conversation to have. And then a team like Oklahoma, a team who was really awful to start conference play, but they're kind of hot right now. They've kind of made their way onto the bubble. I think those are the big storylines. And then can anyone beat Florida? I mean, since mid-January, they've just been an absolute tank and no one's been able to even compete with them. We've seen them blow out team after team after team in the SEC. It's really impressive what they're doing, especially with all the talent they lost last year. So can we see a team like Arkansas with Acuff, if he's going to play, because I know he missed the season finale, the regular season finale. Can we see a team like Alabama who can just get really hot? Can Vanderbilt make some noise? Probably not, but I think those are the big things. Keep an eye on day 1, and then just if anyone could beat Florida.
I would hold off on saying Vanderbilt can't make some noise. They are definitely I know this is cliche to say, but having senior guards in March Madness there's a high correlation with that and winning. And like Vanderbilt has that. And I cannot wait for a potential Tennessee beats the winner of Auburn, Mississippi State, and then Tennessee plays Vanderbilt. They just played in a rivalry game in the last week of the season. Very good game. Vanderbilt winning that game really kind of reinstilled my confidence in them. They were slipping a lot, but that's a team I'm really looking to watch. They do a lot of things very well. I do think Florida's the best, but I think the top of the bracket is definitely what I'm looking at. Also, Alabama, definitely a team that, Alabama and Florida were not the top 2 headed in the non-con. But both of them have just ran through the SEC, and they've definitely been easily the two of the hottest 7-8 teams in the country.
My storylines have to do with matchups, really. Like Tennessee versus Vanderbilt speaks to me as well. Like Tanner versus Gillespie, 2 of the best guards in the SEC and in the country. A potential Arkansas-Alabama shootout to the first to 110 would be amazing in the semifinals. And then who is in the way of Florida? Because Missouri is hot and cold, and Kentucky you can't really trust. It seems like Florida, no matter who they get, has an easy win to the semifinals, or not easy, but they should get there. And then who else is in the way there? And then I guess you guys already mentioned it, but Auburn right now on bracket matrix is the 2nd team out. Only a few teams have them in. ESPN is one of them. So, I want to see, if Auburn loses to Mississippi State, does Joe Lunardi finally say, enough is enough? There's no reason for me to have this Auburn team in the tournament. If they lose to Mississippi State, guys, we just need to call it. I think it can. Josh Hubbard could certainly have himself a game, and I just think that's the big thing that I think everyone's kind of rooting for that to happen. we'll see what happens there. Maybe Auburn will go on a run and make it a really tough decision. Let's pick the games, guys. Who's winning it?
Gotta go Florida. I mean, I know I've picked all the 1 seeds, but just the way they've played, like I said, since mid-January, there's no one who's even been able to compete with them. So I think that they get it done pretty easily.
Yeah, glad they're pretty much in line to be that final 1 seed as well. With UConn, of course, we'll talk about them in a sec, but losing that bad game at the end of the year to Marquette, yeah. I mean, they haven't lost recently in most of their games. Pretty much all their games have not even been competitive. They're beating good teams by 20 points consistently.
You know, I want to go with Arkansas because I really do love Darius Acuff and what he can do when he's at his full strength and able to play like that. But I don't know. I got to go Florida as well. It seems kind of like sad that we're taking the 1 seeds, but they've just been so good. So yeah, give me the Gators. Chomp chomp. One more power conference, if you consider it a power conference. It's kind of been a mid-major this year. But when it comes down to it, you still have 2 teams that are Final Four-ish, second weekend contenders. And then you have Villanova who, hey, maybe they can do it as well. And then you've got Seton Hall pretty much, I guess at this point, needs to win to get in. But, you know, Pirates have been sneaky at times. So, guys, give me your storylines.
There's not really much, if we're being honest. I mean, UConn versus St. John's is definitely the main one. We saw they split the regular season title. There's been a back and forth between both fan bases. Which team is the better team? So if they can meet in the finals, that'll be an awesome way to decide, especially since it's at MSG. I mean, we know the environment's going to be great there. You have to look at teams like Seton Hall. I know you'll talk about them, Matt, but can they maybe sneak a game against St. John's and get back into the conversation to be a potential bubble team that can sneak in? Besides that, like the first round, maybe those games will be exciting, but none of those games really have any impact on the results. It sucks that UConn's on the other side because Creighton and Seton Hall are both teams that are prone to beat UConn, so that would have caused a little bit of drama, but unless they beat St. John's, we won't get that final. So yeah, not much to talk about here. I think it's just hoping and praying we get St. John's UConn in the final because that would be the best result.
I will say I think that the Big East is the conference that's most prone to just some like crazy result that we're not expecting. Of course, we've seen that just recently with UConn. But yeah, the way the bracket is set up, it's kind of set up for chalk. I like just Villanova. I don't think Villanova has what it takes to beat UConn in this setting. I don't think the winner of Providence Butler has any way to compete with St. John's. Yeah, sorry to be boring, but UConn again, they're lucky they dodged Seton Hall because they're somehow Shaheen Holloway is the one coach that could figure out Dan Hurley consistently.
My biggest storyline here is how the heck did Marquette get the 7 seed? Like, are we sure this isn't a typo, guys?
They're hot.
Like, insane. Maybe Marquette will beat UConn a second time. No, I have a storyline to watch, like DePaul. Like, I feel like they're going to get a lot of people rooting for DePaul in that Villanova game. The thing about the Big East, guys, is like I'm obviously used to cover it, and like it is a sellout with the exception of the first round, unless like St. John's is playing. And I don't think any of these first rounds will be sellouts because they're not like if it's 2 teams that are in the original Big East, it's usually like pretty close to a sellout. But every time since then, like quarterfinals and on, it'll be sellouts. The potential semifinal of having St. John's against Seton Hall and UConn against Villanova, like the Garden will be rocking if that's what we get because it is the 2 teams closest to New York City. It is UConn fans that travel and it is Villanova fans that travel. Honestly, the 4 closest teams in general to New York City are those teams right there. So that could be a one heck of just an atmosphere at MSG for the semifinals. And yeah, I mean, we kind of already said most of the storylines, but like you never know what can happen in the Big East tournament. Like for all we know, Georgetown's going to beat DePaul, beat Villanova, and give UConn a run for their money. But what do we have in the picks here, guys?
I'm going back and forth, but I think I'm going to lean on recency bias here and go UConn. Just the way they played against St. John's in that last game where they absolutely dominated them start to finish. Both great coaches, obviously, but I think Dan Hurley is going to use that. He showed the team what it takes to beat them and beat them comfortably. And I think they'll remember that. The UConn crowd's always going to travel. They know how it takes to win in this environment, in this arena, and I think that they'll get it done.
Yeah, I think that I do understand that they just played UConn St. John's, and St. John's scored in the low 40s. Horrendous performance. I still look at the full body of work. I look at the first time that St. John's and UConn played, and St. John's had one of their better offensive outputs of the season. They also just gave UConn so much trouble with their ball pressure. I think I see UConn turn the ball over 15 times in that game. I think like 10 of them were Silas Demery Jr. But yeah, I think St. John's is going to win. It's really you talked about the coaching matchups. It's such a chess match because we saw what St. John's did in round 1. We saw what Dan Hurley was able to adjust in round 2, and now it's just the back and forth chess match. And if you're a basketball tactician, like I'm not like a high level basketball tactician. I know a little bit, but like if you're really into that stuff, like this is the round 3 of St. John's UConn is really what you're going to want to watch.
Drum roll, please.
Oh, no.
Attention. I'm going to tell you exactly how this is going to happen for my Seton Hall Pirates, guys. And this is the way it's going to happen. Seton Hall gets Creighton in the quarterfinals Thursday at 2:30 p.m. People from Omaha don't really travel to the Big East tournament. Newark is gonna make New York their second home. The Pirates and the Blue Jays split in the regular season. I've got Seton Hall winning that one, advancing to the semifinals. They just played St. John's. They almost had them. And I think this is a St. John's team that knows they're on the ropes. And it's going to be a tough one here, but it's a 5:30 start. I'm going to say that St. John's fans get there a little late to the Garden. Seton Hall finds an early push, and they hold on to win a classic to move on to the finals. And this is where it gets fun, guys. It's not going to be UConn in the finals. It's going to be Villanova. Kevin Willard gets it done against UConn in the semifinals. And Seton Hall, on the 10-year anniversary of winning their last Big East tournament, takes down their old coach, Kevin Willard, and Villanova. And the Pirates make it to the big dance.
Okay, so what are your actual picks now?
My actual pick is still kind of a crazy one. I'm going to go Villanova.
All right.
I say Villanova gets it done. I say that Villanova does give UConn a game. I actually have them beating UConn in that game no matter what. And I do think St. John's and Seton Hall is a toss-up. But if Villanova plays St. John's, I got Villanova winning that one. So give me one of those two teams winning it. That's our Big East. You guys ready for some Power Conference tournament?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. We're under 7 days away from Selection Sunday. It's crazy to say, but we're so close. We're in the Super Bowl right now.
So close, but so far. Still a lot of games to get to. For Dan Siegel, for Ario Puderman, I'm Matt Majinski. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and we will talk to you next time.